Hello, and welcome to ELAC Library's online workshop series. Today's workshop is Website Investigator. By the end of this workshop, students should understand why we should investigate websites for credibility, be able to examine the anatomy or building blocks of a website, and finally, use those building blocks to investigate a website's credibility. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and have you think about what you're already doing in terms of website evaluation. When your professors ask you to make sure the websites you're using in your research are credible, how do you do that? How do you know? Have you ever come across a website that you knew or thought wasn't truthful or credible? If so, how did you know? Chances are you're already using your gut to think about what you're browsing on the internet and make quick judgment calls about the credibility of the content you're encountering. In this workshop, we're going to go over a few strategies you can use to make that evaluation process a little bit more intentional. Before we go into any details, let's first discuss why it's so important to investigate websites for credibility. First, we must acknowledge that misinformation is not a new phenomenon. Unfortunately, people have been sharing untruths or misrepresenting information, whether intentionally or unintentionally, for a very long time. However, in our digital age, the internet and widespread use of social media platforms has made it particularly easy for us to stumble across less than trustworthy information online. So it's really important for everyone to develop an awareness of evaluating information you come across on the internet, especially if you're planning on using that information in an academic setting. Let's learn how we can do that. Our first step in evaluating websites is understanding the anatomy or building blocks of a good website. Now, when we say good, in quotes, we kind of just mean any website that's appropriate for use in an academic research setting while here at ELAC. Once you've identified some of those websites' anatomy or building blocks, you can then use those elements to evaluate the website in an academic context. Let's go over a few of the elements you'll want to look into while you're evaluating websites. Look for contact information, like a physical address, email address, or telephone number. Most credible websites list multiple ways a person can contact them for more information. Look for an About Us section to read author or organization biographies. It's important to always look into who is behind the content. Is it a well-known organization, or a seasoned journalist, or a person known for writing bogus or fake articles? The level of authority you'll need to look out for will depend on your research context, but it's a good start to simply Google the names of the organization or authors. Next, look for an organization's mission statement and read it to see if you can detect any bias. The mission statement will clue you into the reason why the website exists in the first place. Next, you can look at the website's top-level domain. A domain is just a fancy way of saying a website's address or location on the internet. A website's top-level domain can give you an idea of the type of website you're looking at. You never want to use the top-level domain as the sole indicator of credibility. For example, a .org is a website for an organization, but any organization can get a .org top-level domain, even one that has a very biased or partisan agenda. Likewise, .com stands for commercial, or a website that can make money through advertisements placed on their website. Just because a website can earn ad revenue doesn't make it any less credible than a .org. There are many reliable and credible .coms, like latimes.com. The top-level domain simply tells you the type of website you're looking at and not much more. Next, you'll want to search for a publishing date and make sure the content you're reading is current enough for your research needs. You'll also want to check the links in the website. A lot of dead links might be a sign the website is either out of date or intentionally misleading you. More importantly, if the links do work, make sure your website is linking out to credible or reliable sources. If the website is not citing or linking to its original sources, or it's sending you to questionable websites, you might want to go with another website. Lastly, you can think about the overall look and feel of the website. Is it easy to read and navigate? Is it easy to find all of the above elements? Or is it cumbersome and difficult to navigate? Are you having trouble finding author bios or mission statements? The interface can give you a clue as to how much time and energy the organization places on making their content look professional and making it accessible to the public. Together, all of these pieces of a website or a website's anatomy can give you an idea of the website's credibility. Here's a bonus tip. If you wind up using the website for your research, these elements will also help you properly cite the website. Okay, now that we've covered the most important pieces of a website's anatomy, let's investigate a website together. Say you're doing research on political rhetoric for a political science class, and you come across the website factcheck.org. Let's evaluate this website using our checklist. Okay, this website seems to be set up like a lot of websites, with menu options in the header at the top, article links in the middle, and it looks like there's more links at the bottom or in the footer of the website. Already looking at the footer, I can see a link to our first item on our checklist, Contact Us. Clicking on this link, it seems we have a postal address, an email, and a telephone all listed. Next, let's look for an About Us section. It looks like at the top here in the header, they have an entire menu section on About Us. Looking at the staff, I can browse through and read their bios. It's looking like most of their staff are experienced journalists, but if needed, I could also Google an individual's name and verify their past work. Now, let's move on to their mission statement, which I believe was also in their About Us menu. Here it is. Wow, in the first sentence, they let us know that they are a nonpartisan and nonprofit consumer advocate. Side note, if you ever come across unfamiliar words while online, you can always go to dictionary.com to quickly get a definition. Nonpartisan, for example, is simply a term that means they do not favor one political party over another. The mission statement tells us their purpose, which in this case is to monitor the factual accuracy of what is being said by US politicians. Already, I'm thinking this may be a credible website for my political science research, but let's keep looking. If we go on to the next point, the top level domain, it looks like they are a .org. So I know it's an organization that's not profiting off of this website. Next, let's go back to the home page and look for dates of publication. Looking at some of these articles, they seem to be pretty up to date, so I know they're keeping current with the news cycle. Let's click on one of these articles and look at more information. Notice that throughout this article, there are words that are hyperlinked or linked to other websites. This is a good sign, but we also want to actually click on some of these links to make sure that they're taking us to credible resources. In this case, it looks like they're taking us out to other news organizations. Okay, back to factcheck.org, let's look at the website's overall look and feel. So for me, this website has a familiar look. There's a menu at the top of the website. There's current articles that I can browse and read. And looking at this article, it seems that each online article also lists an author that I can check on and a date of publication. Taking all of these pieces of the website's anatomy into consideration, I'd say that factcheck.org is indeed a credible website that I'd feel comfortable using in an academic setting if required to use a website as a source. Let's get back to our slides. Okay, now let's review. It's always important to evaluate a website's credibility. And today we learned how to use a website's anatomy or its building blocks as indicators of authority. For example, we can investigate a website's author, creator, or mission statement. Don't forget, you also want to check to make sure that the website's links are working and that they link to other credible sources. When in doubt, you can always Google the source, the author, or the name of the organization and see what others are saying about their credibility. It's important to think critically about the sources you find online, and I hope this workshop gave you a template for doing so. Now it's your turn to practice. In order to get credit for this workshop, you'll need to complete the online worksheet at bit.ly/W form. Once you submit your online worksheet, a librarian will contact you and the professor you listed with a workshop completed confirmation email. Again, the link to the online form is bit.ly/WI form. Thanks for watching.